currently we take it for granted that we are black people. Before, nobody called us black people. They called us non-whites, which was planting into our minds that we should aspire to be white in order to be human. And you don't know how we fought. What were we fighting? We were fighting against the media of this country, which was convinced, committed to calling us non-whites. And we refused, and we demanded, and we acted against that thing. Eventually, they relented.
Black people give ground quickly in order not to jeopardize their situation.
People don't know why in 1972, SASO conference here at St. Peter's, the rand enemy was banned. We banned it because of their refusal to call us blacks. And people were surprised that our report was allowed to stay. Our argument was that Afrikaners always called us swart mense. So they never had any problem from the beginning. They called us swart mense. So we had no problem with them. But the rand enemy only stopped after that. They continued to know.
I did it at Rendeli Mail. I told them that you cannot go and change my stories and where I've written about black students and you put non-whites. So on the spot I am resigning. And I had a wife and 2 children. I didn't even think about them. It's not easy. And I did that in France too. Because it had become part, it had got into my blood too. This thing of living what we believe in. It's a question of this thing, whether it is in your mind or it is just a slogan, you know?
But when other staff told me, no, we don't like the name, it raised political emotions. I was with the standing pastor. We told him, what are you talking about? Because we call you whites, we call you Europeans. He said, no, we're trying to find a name for you with the race relations. I said, no, perhaps you can find it from them. It might be in their records.
Is he still alive and stuff?
The staff died about 2 months ago. But the Institute of Race Relations was the one who was doing research on that. And he said the name that we are actually tentatively agreed on is Afro-Caucasians, African colors and Asians, because they didn't accept black. And I remember I told Mr. Smart, you are going to call us black at gunpoint. As I told him straight forward, and all this, and what you can't know. I mean what to say, because I was angry. How can you tell us, we are black, we can't call ourselves black? We said, no, call it a black at gunpoint. The first step that we took is to ban them from the conference, which really embarrassed them. Because all other newspapers, including the reports, were reported the conference. The rand enemy was not there. And when people ask us, we said, go and ask them. They will tell you, they refuse to call us black.
Black consciousness is more about your history, your circumstance, and making sense out of all of that. So, I guess Steve Biko and others at some point say it's not skin deep. So we're not talking about the differences in our pigmentation. We're talking about a particular history and circumstance that could be ascribed to African black people. In fact, not even African black people. People who have a particular history, which is why, within black consciousness, you didn't have colored people. We talk about the so-called colored, we talk about the so-called Indians, because all of that was defined as black.
We are not anti-white. Steve was very clear on that. We're pro-black. No, the name black started in 1971 at the University of Natal, black section. If you check the first constitution of SASO, it talks about we non-white student of South Africa. That's what the first constitution will have. Because the name black did not exist, but we did not want non-white. Because we say, you can't say a donkey is a non-horse. A donkey is a donkey. But we did not want to have a definition of blackness based on race. That's why we use social, economic, and political conditions that bring us together. it was a tough situation because a number of black students, other people said no, but Indians are not, colors are not, because in the pyramid of South Africa, even today, when you look at it at the top in terms of salaries, it's still whites, almost 95%, and below that will be Indians, and below that the colors, below the base is Africans. So it was a hard project to sell. Just that Steve has always been a very good communicator.
I still cringe at the moment when I come across certain monikers and appellations. That person is a colored, or that person is Zulu, or that person is Indian. You know, I bristle because we saw ourselves as black. And this was a political term. It had nothing to do with the complexion of your skin or the color of your eyes in some instances. You know, it was an attempt to say we are not non-white, we shouldn't be identified in a negative sense, we are proud, we have a history, we come from people who struggled in different countries, so all of that was important.
I guess Steve Biko and others at some point say it's not skin deep. So we're not talking about the differences in our pigmentation.
When people talk about black consciousness, quite often they superficially use slogans like black is beautiful. Now there's an importance in that slogan because it was a time when we all had a sense of inferiority, where skin lightening creams were the norm, where people would straighten their hair. And this is in all oppressed communities. If you had a child or if you come from a family, regardless of whether you were classified so-called African, so-called colored or so-called Indian, if there were light-skinned people, this would cause, you know, people's understanding of beauty revolved around that.
It's like the issue of wigs. We fought wigs. We fought Ambi. Independents themselves. You know, in KwaZulu-Natal, guy, the Zulu man, you know, you speak up this, but he anyway, the wig with the stick, from the nurse and throw it out the bus. One time, you know, one nurse, because her expensive wig was thrown away, she went and bought caustic soda. She sprayed him in the face with that, burned his face. So when you Masikila said, I don't take photos, the woman, I agree with him. This was part of the struggle, but we are reinventing the same thing. Because that's what we used to have.
Steve Biko, I think, struggles with this question. Is it a pigmentation issue we're talking about? And he struggles to define black consciousness as being an awareness and an intention to change society such that each one of us feels free in who they are. And some of the small things he deals with that I think many people haven't been exposed to black consciousness and find it difficult. When he deals with, we're not non-white. Because if you're saying I'm a non-white, you are defining me in relation to a white person.
People think that this thing named black was being popular. No. Even some blacks were resistant. They will tell you, no, I'm a non-white, I'm not black.